So we'll move on to a bit of the writing now. And you're writing from an early age. When was your first novel?
Well, I mean, I wrote a novel when I was, I think, about 12, a detective story. That was quite good. It would probably run to sort of 2,000 words, which when you're 12 is really long.
That's good. That's good. Very long.
Yeah.
A lot of patience.
And I loved reading from a very early age, and I didn't know how you wrote. I mean, I think that's I think what's possibly better now is that there's a lot more kind of public knowledge of how writing works and how people write things, and there's a lot more outlets for it. I just had no idea how you wrote. I honestly sent my first manuscript, because I'd cycled past the office, to a map publisher, because it said publisher, and I took a note. I went, oh, right, I'm going to send them my manuscript. And they sent me a lovely letter, because they went, we quite enjoyed reading your novel, but we normally publish maps, and I mean, just had no clue. I didn't know about agents and publishers and how you submit manuscript. I didn't even know what a manuscript was. This was probably 3,000 words of solidly typed in one long paragraph with appalling spelling, because I'd learnt how to type on a manual typewriter. So I had no clue. And actually, the way I got into it was writing for the stage. I mean, that's when it suddenly clicked that I could write lines that like people say, and then someone explained, that's called dialogue, Robert. I mean, I was really, I was barely educated. I was thrown out of school quite young, so.
We'll not ask how long.
No, don't.
So, looking back at your first published book, The Reconstructed Heart, how did it feel to be published? We ask this of a lot of writers, and I always like asking the question: how did it feel to be published, and when you get the book in your hand?
Yeah, no, it was incredibly exciting, but it was mixed with frustration. So it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a stage show I did called The Reconstructed. So it was it had numerous subtitles, but the stage show was the male response to feminism from 1970 to 1990. It was like a serious lecture with slides, and it had graphs in it. And one of the graphs was the amount of wine a woman has to drink before she believes all men are bastards, and that was gradually diminished from 1970. It was like 3 glasses down to like a sip in 1990. So it had sort of comic elements to a sort of serious topic. I mean, I basically came of age during the sort of explosion of feminism in the mid-70s. So it was very much about that. What are men supposed to do? Because whatever you do is wrong. Is wrong.
Yeah. I'd like to also look at another book which I've not read, and I'm going to seek out and look for, which is Sold Out, which is How You Survived a Year of Not Shopping. Now that to me sounds like paradise. I mean,
yes.
what was the thinking behind that?
The thinking behind it was a publisher approaching me to write the book, because actually, I didn't do the experience in order to write a book. I mean, it was very much the other way around, and I didn't particularly want to do it, and then they talked me into it, because I mean, when I wrote them an email and I said, what am I going to write? Like, day one, didn't buy anything, because that's essentially what happened. It wasn't a very an exciting year from that point of view, but it was a decision I came to when after doing Christmas shopping with my children, who were then still quite young, and I just felt this is just wrong, and I couldn't impose it on them. I didn't feel I was in a position to impose it on them, and also I don't think I would have been allowed to impose it on them by my wife. But it was interesting. They did notice it, and they both, I think, been affected by it. I think they did sort of become aware of what I was talking about over the length of the year. So, I mean, all I set myself a goal was that I won't buy anything other than food and medicine. That's all I was allowed to buy for myself. So the rest of the family, I didn't, whatever. And so I didn't buy any clothes, books, newspapers, magazines, gizmos, hard drives, USB 2 leads, camera cards. Just, some of the things were really easy. Socks, let me tell you, after a year and you don't buy any new socks, you remember how you darn. My mum taught me how to darn. So there's all those things come back. That's essentially what the book was about. Actually, wait a minute, and I called it Making Do originally, because that's what my mother did, and that's what I grew up with. You make do. You got that. You've got a pair of trousers with a hole in the back. You sew them up. You patch them. So it was actually a reminder, effectively, of how we maybe should live.
Yeah.
And it kind of brought all that back. And I lived as a young till I started showing off on stage. I sort of lived in designer poverty. I come from a very comfortable middle class background. I had no reason to live the way I did, but I chose deliberately to shun that and not be a consumer and join the rat race, as it was called in those days, and it kind of brought a lot of that back. Was sort of reclaiming that and going, actually, that there were some things I did when I was 17, 18, 19 that were stupid, criminal, and wrong. But not everything, you know. So it was kind of going, well, hang on, no, not everything I did then was really daft. There was some really good ideas that need to be, I wanted to explore as an old bloke, you know.
Well, looking also through your back catalogue, there's a book called Sudden Wealth, which is a book that means quite a bit to me. I started getting into reading by reading that book. I came to it a little late. And I'd bring it here for you tonight to sign, but I'd like you to do me a favour if possible. Now, obviously you're aware we're filming. If you could just look into that camera and say to Terry Hughes to give me that book back, please. That would be tremendous.
Terry Hughes, can you give him his book back? Sudden Wealth, yeah. Don't be a twat.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sorry. There was a sign on the door when you came in that said profane language, maybe.
Yeah, mild. Yeah, that's okay.
Mild.
It's okay. I don't think I need to make an apology for that.
There's a great Americanism that I learned when I was in that described me, apparently. Potty. I didn't want to pop. Potty mouth. Apparently that's what I've got. You've got a potty mouth.
Okay, so...
So I'm really trying not to have a potty mouth tonight.
Well, you're reining it in superbly. So this will be the last question now before...
Sorry, that came out, sorry.
This will be the last question now, just before we hear some more music from Michael Reeve. And what sort of writer are you? Are you one that sits at a desk and just crams and crams and crams, or do you do it in bits and bobs? Do you do it around the house?
Oh no, I do sit in a desk and turn everything off and sort of try and focus on it. Well, I focus on it, and I get very lost in it and cause a lot of stress in my family because someone's come in to tell me supper's ready, or one of the children's cut their leg off, and I'm still writing. The dog's exploded and killed the vicar.
Get out!
What? What did you say?
Finish this.
So yes, I get very lost in it. So I do, but I try and set. It's more not setting a day. It's actually I have to sort of plan ahead because of the nature of my other work. That I'm not going to do anything in September and October, which is what I'm doing this year to write. So I've got time, and so I don't accept any other bookings in that time. And then on day one, enormous amount of laundry and tightening the washing line by 4.3 centimetres and sweeping the step to my office and absolutely making sure the papers are all ordered.
Really tidy desk.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, but they're not too long, and because I actually get really excited to go for walks and think about it and get into it.
Yeah. And can you still get lost in a good book, or do you sometimes think, oh, that's a great introduction of a character, or can you still lose yourself, or are you sometimes looking at style and other influences?
I mean, I wish when I talk to other writers, and I'm not going to say proper writers, but when I talk to other writers, and you go, God, that is amazing because of the way they've constructed a sentence, and I've decided not to worry about that. That the story for me is what drives me, and in a sense, the idea behind the story is what kind of fires me on to try and understand a way of exploring that without being repetitive and boring and annoying. And then one of the things I've done recently is read. I always read my work out loud anyway because I find that's a good way for me to notice an obvious sort of mistake. But the next step to that, which is what I've done with this book, is to listen to it. So I record what I read, listen to it back, and I've got a special set of old cushions in the corner of my office that's called my writhing corner. I'm there like that because I'm not allowed to stop it. I don't let myself. Oh, that's and I take notes and then rewrite it and then So that's been a good lesson.
Yeah, and you say there about ideas, and we'll come back after our short break for some music. Robert will be reading from News from Gardenia, and then we'll talk about the ideas behind it.